Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous 12 hours. We have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And first we're going to talk about the United States of America, because important things are coming from this country. Donald Trump stated that he plans to meet with Vladimir Putin to resolve the war in Ukraine. The elected US president made this statement at the AM Fest forum. According to him, both he and the Russian president are looking forward to this meeting. This is very interesting and very important statement, because according to information I have, the president of Russian Federation Vladimir Putin, since Donald Trump was elected as a president of the US, hasn't made even a single statement that he is looking forward to this meeting. But this is not the most important. The most important that Donald Trump made the same statement about the president of Ukraine, Zelensky. He said that Zelensky is looking for this meeting to start negotiation about the peace process. Later, the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, was insulted with those statements made by Donald Trump, and he later told a lot of bad things about the elected president of the United States of America, Donald Trump. As for Russia, we see that the Russians are no longer isolated from different countries. Today we got a very important statement, very important piece of news, that the Prime Minister of Slovakia, Robert Fico, arrived in Moscow, and currently he has a meeting with the president of Russian Federation. Slovakian Prime Minister Robert Fico has suddenly arrived in Moscow. He is currently holding a personal meeting with Vladimir Putin. And obviously the main topic of their discussions is the transit of gas through the territory of Ukraine in the direction of Slovakia. As according to information we have, Ukrainians, finished the contract by the end of the 2024. All contracts for transit of gas will be finished, and which means that the countries like Slovakia will no longer available to receive gas through the territory of Ukraine. Furthermore, the same situation faced the country of Hungary, but according to information we have, the Hungarians managed to resolve the issues with Ukrainians. Oil supplies via Druzhba from Russia to Hungary have been restored. That was stated by Hungarian foreign minister. Another country that is going to face huge energy crisis is Moldova, and by the end of the year we start talking about Transnistria once again. This is becoming a new topic, number one, in the European and Russian conflict. Russian Foreign Intelligence Service. The European Union does not know or simply does not want to calm the emotionally unstable Moldovan president. The main statements of the Russian Foreign Intelligence Service. Sandu, the president of Moldova, resolutely refused to negotiate with Kiev on the issue of providing Moldova with energy resources after the Russian-Ukraine agreement on gas transit expires. According to the Moldovan president, if Moscow does not find a way to deliver gas to Moldova, the country will take revenge on Transnistria. The Moldovan authorities initiated criminal cases against the leaders of Transnistria on charges of separatism. The head of Moldova ordered the preparation of an operation of forcibly seize the state district power plant, which is located in Transnistria. The country is already preparing for military operation, and no one can guarantee that it will not try to start a war. So the situation is intensifying, is becoming critical in this area, and obviously this is going to happen maybe not the next months, but during the special military operation, if the special military operation doesn't end in the very near future. Now let's discuss the situation on the ground, because we have a lot of very interesting updates. And first we're going to talk about the northern Kupiansk direction. According to information we have, according to different mappers, the Russians managed to improve their positions along the river Voskol and to take under control several more buildings on the area of the settlement. So the Russians are attacking, the Ukrainians haven't managed to stabilize the situation. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the southern Kupiansk direction. According to information we have, the Russians managed to take under control the village of Terny. That was stated right before I start making the video. The village was captured by the Russians, which means that there is just one village left in this side of the southern Kupiansk direction. We are talking about the settlement of Yampolovka. Now let's move further and let's discuss the situation in the area of Pokrovsk. Today we got lots of very interesting updates. During the previous 24 hours, the Russians carried out several offensive operations in the direction of the village of Yasnevo, in the direction of the settlement by the name of Ukrainsk, and in the direction of Novolenivka. The Russians were using significant number of vehicles, but there was one important thing that I would like to point to your attention. This video was published by the Ukrainian sources, and there is one interesting moment that's very important to see and to discuss. For example, in this video we can see how the Ukrainians were after withdrawing the Russian soldiers, and then in this part of the video we can see significant number of light vehicles, regular cars, that the Russians concentrated in this area with the purpose to attack further in the western direction. But the Ukrainians managed to discover the concentration of light vehicles of Russian army, and they destroyed them with artillery strikes. So it's very interesting why the Russians were using just regular vehicles to attack Novoukrainka. Maybe they were out of armored vehicles because most of them were destroyed since the beginning of the special military operation, or the Russians had some plans and some tricky plan that wasn't discovered by the Ukrainians. Now let's move further. As for the Kurakhova pocket, according to information we have, the Russians managed to improve their positions to the west from Zelenovka in the direction of Rozlov, and several more true lines in the fortifications were taken by the Russians. The Russians are getting closer and closer. And the most important updates are coming from the Velyka Novosilka settlement. According to information we have, the Russians managed to improve their positions and to take under control the settlement of Starozhova. The Vostok grouping has liberated the settlement of Starozhova that was stated by the Russian sources. The troops of Vostok grouping continued their offensive in the south and Donetsk direction, penetrating deeper into the Ukrainians' defenses near the settlement of Velyka Novosilka, gradually completing a maneuver to fully encircle and block the area. Artillery fire and airstrikes have already severed the main communication roads, destroyed bridges, and completely disrupted the Ukrainian supply lines. So another important thing, that according to pro-Russian resources and according to pro-Ukrainian sources, the Russians also managed to improve their positions and physically cut the road 0510 between the Velyka Novosilka and the town of Gulaya Polya, so which is another evidence that the Russians, as a result of offensive operation, managed to cut the road physically and to create a cauldron. So we can say that most likely today, on the 23rd of December, the town of Velyka Novosilka was officially caught in cauldron without any possibilities for evacuation. If this information is correct, if the Russians are able to stabilize their positions along 0510 road, this will lead to complete collapse of Ukrainian defense, and that the battle of Velyka Novosilka will be finished very soon. Now let's discuss the situation in Zaporozhye. Today, according to information we have, the Ukrainians indeed several days ago conducted very successful offensive operations, and as a result of those attacks, the Ukrainians managed to improve their positions significantly. So this is the situation. By the end of the 22nd of December, we start receiving first geolocations of Ukraine control in the northeastern part of the settlement, and by the 23rd of December, the Ukrainians managed to improve their positions and to take several more buildings and lines in this area. So it's very difficult to understand what the Ukrainians are planning to do next, whether they're going to stop or they will continue their offensive. On the other side, we continue receiving reports that the Russians were attacking the city of Kherson during the previous 48 hours. The Russians, according to information we have, made a lot of attempts to cross the river Dnipro and to establish a stable foothold on the Ukrainian side of the river. But the Ukrainians are saying that those attacks conducted by the Russians were repelled. The Russians suffered losses and they were forced to fall back. Now it's a very interesting question whether those was just single attempt or the Russians are planning to repeat their attacks in the direction of Kherson. Very interesting details and updates are coming from the Middle East, and the most important, that Israel most likely is preparing to begin their another attack on Iranian infrastructure. At least that was stated by different Israeli authorities. According to information we have, today on the 23rd of December, there was a meeting between the head of between the head of Israeli media reports that director of Mossad, David Bernil, has suggested to military and political officials over the last few days that Israel should launch another wave of strikes against Iran to hold the ongoing ballistic missile attack from Yemeni by the Iranian-backed Houthis, with Bernier claimed to have said, "We have to go for the head for Iran." And as for the current situation, today we started receiving reports that Iran has lots of problems in their energy crisis. Iran's Black Strike is not over. The country is in the midst of the energy crisis. The New York Times today published a large article about the problems with the infrastructure and electricity in Iran, which have reached a critical point. We are facing a very serious imbalance in gas, electricity, energy, water, money, and environment. President Masoud Pezeshkian said in a live televised address to the nation. Iran has some of the world's largest reserves of natural gas and crude oil, but a full-scale energy crisis is gaining momentum, caused by years of sanctions, questionable management decisions, outdated infrastructure, and ongoing exchange blows with Israel. Here's a quick roundup of the current problems. Government agencies in Iran are closed or operating on reduced hours. Schools and colleges have switched to online learning. Highways, shopping malls, and government agencies are plunged into darkness. So lots of problems, and of course from this perspective, maybe this is the possible time to start attack this country, because basically this country, this state, will not be able to stand against another missile attack from some of the Western countries. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds we condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes to my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.